Good afternoon, everyone. Hope this finds you all well. Shannon Adcock here with Awake Illinois. Wanted to provide an update upon request from parents and advocates in Libertyville District 128. This is a school up in the northern suburbs of the Chicago area. And I actually first became informed of this situation that I'm titling Groomer Schools with this alleged abuse allegation back in March. So this has been going on for several months. And when I heard from the advocate leader there, also a parent in this community, Marnie Navarro, I actually connected her to Dan Vosnos, who is a solid advocate of families with children with vulnerabilities and special needs. He has a son with Down syndrome himself, and he is with the Down Syndrome Association in a leadership role there. So there have been parents who have been rallying around this very, very sad story out of this school district. And I don't know if any of you have seen the headlines. There have been various publications on this story over the last several months. But if you aren't familiar, I want to get you up to speed on some of the details of the allegations, the lawsuit, and the very real concerns that every parent should have in Illinois and elsewhere over what is actually happening in our public schools and those entrusted with our children. So I'm going to just walk us through the bullet points of what has happened so far in Libertyville 128, share a couple of public comments from the wonderful parents and advocates that I mentioned, Marnie Navarro and Dan Vosnos, so you can hear how they are appealing to the district to do better and to hold these, I would say, criminals, disgusting criminals, accountable. So I'm going to go through the bullet points of this. And it's not easy to do, but as I said, I want to bring sunlight to this because parents need to know what is happening. They need to know the failures that are happening, and they need to know how to protect their children. So I'm going to go through some of the top bullet points here, and I have some slides that I can share while we do this. So again, as I mentioned, this is out of Community High School District 128. So what I want to cover here is the Rohde lawsuit, Parker Rohde being the teacher that is accused of a campaign of grooming and abuse against a 15-year-old high schooler with Down syndrome. And unfortunately, the parents have alleged that the district had warning signs. And I'm going to go through some of the whole pattern here of what transpired. And you can see for yourself how worrisome this is and, quite frankly, abhorrent and disgusting. And parents need to know, especially if you're in this district, but really anywhere, because I hear of these incidents happening all over the place, including my town of Naperville. Pretty recently, there's been some fiery school board commentary on what is alleged to be happening there with a teacher. So I'm just going to go through the bullet points of this particular story, again, out of Community High School District 128 in Libertyville. So a lawsuit was filed in March of 2026, and it was filed by Fagan's Law Group on behalf of an unnamed mother and a 15-year-old daughter, Jane Doe, with Down syndrome and intellectual disabilities. The defendants in this were the former special education teacher and a coach of the district, Parker Rohde, and District 128. The allegations in this lawsuit are a campaign of grooming, sexual assault, and abuse beginning fall of 2024 at Libertyville High School. Claims include coercing hugs, quote, "I love yous," and physical contact in exchange for grades and extra credit, exploiting the student's disability and inability to advocate for herself. It was seeking damages exceeding $50,000 per count. There were multiple counts, and the early court records suggested a settlement might be close. I believe that they already did settle civilly. If not, that will be happening soon. I don't have any official documentation on that, but the voicemail that became public, this is very interesting. This Parker Rohde staffer left a voicemail for a colleague describing a new policy. The first student who voluntarily hugged him and said, "I love you," would get 50 extra credit points. He specifically referenced the female victim getting those points. The voicemail also called certain staff rats and snakes who had witnessed his conduct. Parents and advocates say this was a clear red flag that triggered a legal duty to report. That's absolutely correct. What's so worrisome about this case when you really look into it is that there were many parties that were aware of these concerns and allegations. That's concerning. So the alleged failure to make a mandated report, anyone working in a public school is a mandated reporter, and Illinois law requires school employees to immediately report any suspected child abuse or grooming to DCFS. An email from the superintendent to the victim's mother that was obtained by CBS Chicago stated that after the voicemail, administrators had a duty to report immediately to the Department of Children and Family Services. The district did not, according to the lawsuit and the reporting. This is a huge problem, and I believe it is a culture that is adopted by many K through 12 schools across the country. Better to cover it up and keep back-patting at the school board meetings than actually confront criminal allegations. It's disgusting. Parents and former administrator Dan Vosnos, who I mentioned, he is a father of a child with Down syndrome. He's now with the National Down Syndrome Society. He was right to call this a documented failure to follow the law. I'm going to actually play his public comments because they're very eloquent, and I think it's worth you hearing.
Next up, Dan, is it Vosnos?
Yeah, it's Vosnos.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dan Vosnos. I'm a former school administrator with over 2 decades of high school experience here in Illinois, where I served as an athletic director, a building administrator, and district leader. I know how these buildings work. I know how decisions get made. I know when administrators are choosing the institution over a child. I also serve on the board of Kids 2, a nonprofit dedicated to protecting children from predatory conduct and strengthening laws and systems meant to keep them safe. But tonight, I'm here as a father. I have a 7-year-old son named Ellis who has Down syndrome. He is the reason why I left education for the National Down Syndrome Society, and I cannot stay silent about what has happened in this district. A 15-year-old girl with Down syndrome, a student with limited capacity to self-advocate, to understand boundaries, to report what was being done to her, was allegedly subjected to calculated campaign of grooming and abuse by a teacher in this district. This is documented in a lawsuit that was covered by CBS. You guys know what happened here. I don't need to recap anything. Voicemails surfaced in late 2024, extra credit, unconditional affection, you name it. It's sick. And as a father, it breaks my heart. This is not a gray area. This is a documented failure to follow the law. I've obtained internal emails. I've combed through them, including one in which Brian Kelly is copied on, that this district moved to offer this teacher an early retirement buyout rather than report him, managing him out quietly. Let me be direct. Under Illinois law, mandated reporters who willfully fail to report suspected abuse are guilty of a Class A misdemeanor. And if this person acted to prevent discovery of abuse, to shield any person or entity from accountability, that's a Class 4 felony. These are not hypothetical penalties, guys. These are laws in the state of Illinois, laws that I've worked to strengthen. I've worked alongside Representative Mussman on House Bill 4241 a few years ago, legislation that were to protect individuals with disabilities from this exact kind of predatory conduct. It passed the House here in Illinois unanimously. For some reason, it failed to get out of the Senate. I've thought about that failure many times since this case came to my attention. Representative Mussman has since confirmed in writing that this district did not follow state law. and that ISBE has an open investigation. Last week, I met with my local senator to discuss next steps, including coming up with legislation, including mandatory background checks. The question before you tonight is not whether this happened. The question is what will this board do about it? Because Bryant Kelly has not been held accountable. The silence of this institution is being watched by legislators, advocates, and my community, and every family in this district. My son, Ellis, cannot advocate for himself the way other students and children can. Neither could this student at the center of this lawsuit. That is exactly why laws exist, and that is exactly why this board must act. Thank you.
Well done, Dan. As you can see, he's very well spoken, passionate parent advocate speaking against this. It's just horrific. I'm just disgusted by it. But fortunately, parents are figuring this out, and they are putting incredible pressure on the government schools to do right by the law and to do right by kids. So to recap what Dan said, again, he is a parent of a child with Down syndrome. He's now with the National Down Syndrome Society. He called it a failure, a documented failure to follow the law based on everything that's been reported. I would agree. Willful failure to report can be a Class A misdemeanor. Acting to conceal abuse can be a Class 4 felony. Based on everything I've read with this story, I think there are people who are absolutely committing felonies by covering this up. State Rep Michelle Mussman reportedly confirmed in writing that the district did not follow state law. Credit where credit's due. I don't care for her politics, but she was right to follow through on this. And apparently the Illinois State Board of Education opened an investigation. It's concerning that this Parker Rohde has a history of concerning behavior. Around 2022, he was accused of stalking 2 former students, placed on leave, then allowed to return and reassigned to a special education classroom. Why wasn't he fired? And why was he placed into a classroom with students with vulnerabilities and special needs? It's disgusting. The lawsuit and the parents allege a pattern of misconduct, including allegedly entering a student's home, but it was handled internally with reassignment rather than removal. I can give you many different examples of where this has happened in schools across Illinois and across the country. And as I mentioned, most recently, Naperville District 203, I should do a separate live stream on that one. Parents are alleging that concerning behavior was happening by a male teacher in that district, and rather than remove him, they just reassigned him to a different school, a school that now has allegations of potential grooming and or abuse. After the 2024 allegations against this Parker Rohde, he was allowed to retire early, March of 2025. He was rewarded after abuse allegations with early retirement with pension benefits instead of being terminated. The internal emails, including some with Bryant Kelly, who I'm going to get into in just a minute, discussed an early retirement buyout to get him out quietly. So you can see there on the right graphic, Bryant Kelly, he is the associate superintendent. He actually was at one point the athletic director, and Parker Rohde was I believe he was a head track coach, if I'm not mistaken. So they had worked together quite closely. And I think Dan Vosnos had alleged that they probably had a friendship and a strong enough connection for Bryant to want to help him get out of this pretty easily. It's quite possible. So why Bryant Kelly there pictured on the right, Parker Rohde is pictured at the left in these 2 articles that were published. Bryant Kelly, he became the focus of a lot of concerned parents' public comments because as associate superintendent, he is responsible for human resources. He was copied on internal emails about offering Rohde the quiet retirement rather than reporting him. And parents actually at the April 28th board meeting here, including with Dan Vosnos' comments, specifically criticized human resources leadership and demanded accountability. Bryant was placed on leave the next day. The good news that I can report is he has since been fired for cause. So there's been a lot of community backlash, a lot of board meeting pressure. The recurring themes of these comments are who is protecting the students? Obviously, there is plenty of protection for the groomers and the abusers. Where is the protection for the students? There's a lack of transparency. There's a pattern of unaddressed complaints and calls for firings of multiple administrators, not just the one who has since been fired, but others, and probably including staffers such as principals. One of the board members, I believe, vacated the seat early, which is suspicious. Everybody's just jumping ship. But it sounds like there should be more firings. There should be more criminal investigation, because I would assume that there are some people that definitely covered up abuse allegations. It's disgusting. Many of the speakers who have spoken at public commentary have tied it to this broader culture, a toxic culture, I would say, of handling these serious issues internally instead of going to the proper authorities and informing the parents. Unbelievable. The district has made some public comments about its position, quote, aware of the lawsuit, cannot disclose details under federal and state law, confidentiality requirements, following all required laws and procedures, priorities of safe environment, more information will be shared if and when it becomes appropriate. They have not publicly confirmed whether DCFS or police were notified at the time of the voicemail or later. I'm going to play a clip that just happened last night by a phenomenal advocate in this community named Marnie Navarro. Let's play her comments here and you can hear what she has to say.
Good evening. My name is Marnie Navarro, District 128 graduate, lawyer, and incoming parent. I speak for myself. I'm going to mirror some sentiments we've heard here this evening. You know, common theme here. District 128 does not follow the law. District 128 does not listen. District 128 is not transparent. District 128 is not accountable. I'm here to speak again about more Title IX violations. Title IX is a major problem here because this district refuses to follow federal law. This district has an explicit policy that forces use of preferred pronouns in violation of the First Amendment, permits cross-sex use of private bathrooms, locker rooms, and sports, permits cross-sex access to overnight accommodations. This is not hypothetical. This is happening now and has happened in the last 6 weeks, not just men using girls' hotel rooms on school-sponsored trips, but the same bed. Secret gender transitioning without advanced parental knowledge and consent, and express inclusion of gender identity without advance notice and opt-out to parents in curriculum. This is not about ideology. This is about safety, policy, and the law. These are children. Parents, know your rights. This is happening. District 128 is not telling you that this is happening, but it is happening. You have a right to opt out. There are forms available from Awake, Illinois, and America First Legal. You have a right to homeschool your children in any subject, including gym. You do not have to force your daughters to change in front of biological men or let the men change in front of our girls. Your refusal to follow the law costs this district greatly. Our kids are violated and victimized, and we pay. We taxpayers pay, not you. It's not your money. The agenda reflects 2 more settlements yet tonight. Add those to the pile. We've already settled Title VII claims with Ellis Bowen, Yesenia Sanchez, Denise Herman's buyout, the Doe settlement, another one tonight. I don't even know what that one is. I'll FOIA that. And you guys keep going because you simply refuse to follow the law with regard to Title VII, mandatory reporting, Title IX, ADA. We keep getting claims. We're hemorrhaging millions of dollars on attorneys' fees and settlements instead of in the classrooms with our students. And yet there's no meaningful systemic change, mirroring the comments of other public commenters here tonight. There's no accountability, there's no transparency. Superintendent Schaefer found that 5 administrators failed to report the Parker Rohde situation last fall. And only now, 4 months later, after Bryant Kelly's been riding his bike around town at the tune of $300,000 paid administrative salary and benefits for the last 4 months, he's terminated for a cause. Good start, but we need a cleaning of house. We need to start obeying the law and protecting our students. You can't claim ignorance, board, at this point. You guys have been seated for the last 1.5 years. The gender support guidelines are wholly illegal on their face. They were enacted in 2017. They do not contemplate The Cardona decision, the Mamu decision, the Mirabelli decision, and the 2 United States Supreme Court decisions that came down this summer that I've written up for you all for the last 2 years, including this summer, that made very, very clear that Title IX contemplates only biological sex and not gender identity. You don't have a legal leg left to stand on, and you keep drawing lawsuits and endangering and violating our children. Please follow the law, protect our children and our tax dollars. Thank you.
Well done, Marnie. Excellent public comments there. She has been speaking quite consistently in favor of the law and ethics and everything that's just common sense and what we know to be good and true for kids. So I don't know if any of you are familiar with what has been happening in Libertyville 128, but you need to know, because it is a case study in how toxic the culture can be that prioritizes covering up abuse allegations instead of actually protecting kids. So it's a difficult subject matter. I don't look forward to having these live streams on this topic, but when parents want increased awareness on what is happening, we have a strong enough platform to be able to inform. So I do hope you will share this with people. I probably will do a separate live stream on what has been happening in Naperville, because it's very reminiscent of the allegations coming out of that, where again, a staffer was just reassigned rather than removed. As Dan discussed, it's horrible that our taxpayer dollars are going to these 6-figure pensions of people who covered up the abuse of a special needs student. Both the administrator who has been fired for cause and this teacher who was rewarded early retirement. They get to ride out their pension dollars as if nothing happened. That sums up Illinois, doesn't it? Why aren't our legislators passing bills to protect children and to protect the fiscal solvency of any of these school districts? So you need to know what's happening. I'm going to put some more content at the social media post with this live stream, including the copy of the, I'll probably post it to the blog actually, a copy of the complaint that was filed by the mother on behalf of her minor daughter, Jane Doe. Yeah, please share this with people. They need to know. We need to protect children. I've had people ask me pretty recently, what is the win that can be had? I think the win will come later. I think the ultimate win is going to be that Generation Z, which is the older of my generation of parents' kids, that they will have the largest cohort of children not turned over to government schools. I think that's the win that I say to people, is that the next generation of parents will have the largest cohort of children protected from abusers like those in Libertyville District 128. That's the win. The win is not for me or for Marnie Navarro or for Dan Vosnos or for us as parents. We're having to get those wins for our kids ourselves. But the win ultimately will be when the next generation of parents has been shown the receipts and or been on the receiving end of this toxic culture enough to not want to duplicate it and to protect their kids. So, yeah, I'll end on the note of do everything you can to stand in the gap for your children. Do everything you can to be involved in their education, and do everything you can to hold people accountable in your schools and to get every one of your legislators on record as to whether they would ever support a bill that would terminate pension of any felon who failed the students in their care in their district as staffers in public education. Please share this. People need to know about it. Again, we'll be doing a blog post. And I appreciate you all tuning in. Onward for children. God bless.